Hey, what's up? This is a video response to Toadstkr. He made this pretty cool video about knives that surprised him, some in a good way, some in a bad way. I agree with a lot of what he had to say. Like some of those knives that he showed, I've thought about buying at one point in time or another, and I didn't pick them up. Especially the Aegis. That's one of those knives that the blade shape is amazing and stuff. It's one of those knives you think you would like. I've handled a mini Aegis before, and didn't really like it that much. So I'm happy that I saved myself on that one. But I still have a couple SOGs here, so I totally know what you're talking about. So from left to right, we got the Flash 2. I don't really like this knife because, mostly because of the handle. It just feels cheap to me. I think it's kind of a weird looking knife too, like the aesthetics of it don't really make me that happy. Ergonomically, it's not bad really, you know. There's no traction here, but it fills the hand, which is good. The blade shape's okay, you know, like no major issues really, but I find it very difficult to close one-handed. Or maybe not very difficult, but it's a challenge for sure. I've cut myself on it before because sometimes when you're closing it, it'll slip and then you cut yourself. I think I've cut this finger several times, or maybe it's the left hand I was doing it with. But yeah, it's a good knife. You know, like if that was the only knife you ever owned or something like that, you came across it randomly, you'd probably be doing pretty well in the overall scheme of things. But it just doesn't connect to me. I guess I'm not a SOG guy. Similar sentiments on this blade. It is actually easier to close one-handed than the Flash 2 just because the blade is a lot lighter, I guess, and the spring is probably a bit weaker or something. But yeah, don't really like the lock too much. You know, I'll just echo everything that I said about that, you know. Plus, it doesn't fill the hand, so it's just too tiny. It really is amazing how light this knife is, you know, 1 point whatever ounces, like sub 2 ounces. It's really remarkable. But yeah, just doesn't connect to me. I'm not a SOG guy, which I've discovered after owning 2 of their knives and handling a few other ones. Don't really like assisted knives that much either. Okay, CRKT Drifter. I bought this on the same day as the Cryo, the Kershaw Cryo. I don't know why I went kind of crazy that day with stainless steel frame locks, but the Cryo broke and I sent it back. Got the Zing, which is another knife that I'm going to talk about that I don't like. And I've passed that on to my buddy actually, so it's out of my life now, and hopefully it makes somebody else happy. But yeah, don't really like stainless steel frame lock knives. This one's kind of small. I like larger blades when I can get them. Handle doesn't fill the hand. It just feels kind of cold. It's heavy. Don't really like the pocket clip either. Bought it and it's basically sat in a drawer for the last year and a half, whatever. The only thing I can think to do with it is either give it away or do a destruction test. So maybe we'll try and see how strong frame locks really are one of these days. But yeah, so those are the knives that I still have that I don't like. They just surprised me, I guess, in a negative way, you know. The other ones that I don't have with me anymore, but you can refer to my 6 knives that didn't work out for me video. Some of these, I think those are 3 of them. The other 3 are the Zing, which I already mentioned, the Skyline, Kershaw Skyline, and the Spyderco Manix 2. Those last 2 that I just mentioned, the Skyline and the Manix, very surprised that I didn't like them better. Because let's talk about Kershaw first. That's a knife that pretty much everybody has owned or, you know, tried or handled or whatever. And generally the consensus is that it's a very high value, good knife. And I would agree with that. Except it didn't connect to me as a knife user. You know, we all have different tastes, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it was that I didn't like about it, but basically I didn't like the pocket clip that much, and the true test is whether you carry it by choice or not, or does it just sit in the drawer. Mine just sat in the drawer, so I sold it and got back most of what I paid for it. Happy days. The Manix 2, a few different things. For me it was just too heavy. Didn't like the blade shape, and also the lock was a little sticky on it. So those 3 things, you add them up, and I carried it a few times, but it just didn't do it for me, which is very surprising actually, because I love Spyderco. They're my favorite company, so I naturally thought anything by Spyderco I would love, but you live, you learn, right? Okay, so those are the knives that surprised me in a negative way. Now let's talk about the ones that surprised me in a positive way. And they're not all folders. I'm going to throw a fixed blade in there, just why not? So this is Mora Clipper, you know, made in Sweden. Pretty awesome. Everybody knows Moras, right? But you don't hear a lot of people talking about them. Well, or maybe there are, but I don't know. Like Nothing Fancy, as far as I know, he's never reviewed a Mora. I can't talk for everybody else, but you don't hear a lot about them. And I picked one up, 15 bucks, absolutely amazing. The sheath is really good. It clips onto your belt, and it's just, it locks in there. It's got good retention, you know. There's much more expensive fixed blades out there with much worse sheaths, that's for sure. Like the colors, I love the ergonomics. And when you're working with wood, this Scandi rind really just bites in and goes right through it. Whereas a knife like the BK2, for example, it's much better for chopping or for perhaps batoning. It's stronger with the full tang. But if you're trying to like do wood shavings or carving or something like that, this blows any other knife that I've ever handled away. And 15 bucks, like I said, awesome. Okay, so that's that. Now the next one, oh, and here's one in stainless steel too, just before I move on. It's a little smaller, but same performance. It's outstanding and costs about 15 bucks, something like that. So I'll throw that down there. The next one is the, let me just flick it open here, the Cold Steel Recon 1. And, you know, it's a very popular knife, so I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that I like it, but I held off Cold Steel for a very long time as a brand. I just wasn't really sure what to make of it. And also, the reason that I held off for so long on this particular knife, or that series, American Lawman AK-47 Recon 1, is because I saw how many videos there were out there about the finish wearing off, and then people have to like sand it or polish it or whatever to get the rest of it off so it looks halfway decent again. As well as the pocket clip. You know, everybody says that the G10, as great as it is, it kind of destroys your pants if you're not careful. So, so yeah, I was just thinking, why would I buy a knife that I need to do a bunch of maintenance on very soon after buying it? How wrong I was. You know, the pocket clip took me all of 5 minutes to sand under there a little bit, and it's good to go. It doesn't tear up my pants at all. The blade finish has held up fairly well. I have not batoned through wood with it. I guess I've been tempted, but I'm not going to do it. So yeah, there's some wear there. There's no doubt about that. But it's held up fairly well, I would say. And yeah, if it chips off, like, so what? Who cares, right? The other thing that prevented me from buying that is also because it's AUS 8. So I'm not a steel snob by any means, but I just sort of thought, why would I pay like 80 bucks, which is what that knife costs in Canada, 80 plus tax, so we're really talking 90. Why would I pay 90 for AUS 8 when I can get a Spyderco Endura for, you know, 70 bucks or something with the VG10? But anyways, how wrong I was. Love the AUS 8. It's awesome. It takes a great edge. Okay, last knife. Horrible deployment. But the Birdcar Cara 2 FRN. I didn't think I would like that knife because it is a bird knife. Oh my god. You know, it doesn't have the spider hole. You know, it's made in China, blah, blah, blah. But it's awesome. I actually prefer the ergonomics on this over the Spyderco Endura because of the finger choil. I like how you can choke up on it. The jimping's awesome. And also, it really distributes the weight of the knife so nicely. I don't even know how much this weighs, honestly. I want to say around 3 ounces, but I'm probably off. But it feels super light. And I took this to Mexico with me for the better part of 5 months, 6 months. And I brought this and the Tenacious because I wasn't sure what sort of, you know, blowback I would get there basically from the local authorities. You know, like going into bus stations, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what was going to happen. So my plan was to carry a knife, obviously. But if I got caught with the knife and there was a problem, I'd say, oh, you know, I'm very sorry about that. I didn't mean to break the rules. You know, I don't want any trouble, take it away, do I have to pay a fine, blah, blah, blah. And it's basically a throwdown knife that if I lost it, no big deal. But on that subject, never had a problem. I ended up carrying this a hell of a lot more than the Tenacious, and it turned into one of my favorite knives. It still is. I actually just put a convex grind on it the other day. So you can see that the edge looks pretty nice and polished there, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, just a great knife and really a pleasant surprise. I can't recommend the bird knives enough. So yeah, that's it. Like you said, man, there's knives out there that surprise you in a positive way and some in a negative way. I think that the more experience you get as a collector, you get to know what your tastes are and start buying things more tailored towards, you know, your preferences, rather than just like kind of taking knives that are popular and buying them. Like I did that at first as well, and I'm still tempted to do it with certain knives. But, you know, the Dragonfly, for example, by Spyderco, like that's a knife that I think it looks great and it's very cool, but I'm not going to buy it because I know what my preferences are now. I don't like small knives, and it's pretty expensive for what it is. So there's stuff like that out there that a lot of people have it. A lot of people talk about it, but if you don't like small knives, don't buy a Dragonfly, right? Like no matter how much people talk about it, it's not going to connect to you. Just an example, not trying to rag on Spyderco. Anyways, thanks for watching.